Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me today on Rollin With My Homies here on Outside In Theater. Don't forget to comment in the live chat, like and subscribe to Outside In Theater or our YouTube channel. Today is a very, very special show. I'm so excited. As always, I am your host, Santina Muha, but not like always, my guest today does not have a mobility disability. Usually I roll with my homies who are also rolling homies, but today I'm doing something a little bit different. I wanted to pay homage to the best friends of the world. So my guest today she is one of my, okay, so I've known her, she's like my second longest best friend, right? I've known her second longest of all my best friends. I'm not the type of person who throws the word best friend around lightly, by the way, just so you know. I've only ever really had a few that I can hold in my hand. And I've known Cindy since I was 13. I actually met her the day my brother was born. So we'll always remember that. And, you know, of all of my best friends, Cindy is the one who I feel like has really incorporated my disability into our friendship, like in very unique ways. And I just wanted to talk about that. I just thought it would be cool to talk about what it's like for people out there who are just going through school, going through like the teenage years, going through some of the awkward years. And, you know, it's traumatizing enough when your best friend gets a zit, you know what I mean? So imagine your best friend's in a wheelchair. Like, how do we navigate? Not that it doesn't have to be traumatizing. And that was the thing about Cindy. She never made it, like, it just never stopped us. And I'm talking about, we climbed mountains. Her bedroom was on the second floor of our house. And it's one of my only best friends who I can say, like, I know her bedroom. Most of my friends, we slept in the living room or, stuff like that. So anyway, this is the longest intro for a guest I've ever given because I'm just so excited for this, offshoot of a show. She is a very talented person besides being a very great best friend. I mean, she friggin' whittles. She like makes stuff out of marble. She built a coop for her hawk in her backyard. I mean, she can do anything she wants to do. She really can. She's also a clinical services manager, and she's a mom to 2 kids. She's a wife. She's a sister. She's a daughter. She's a dog mom. She's really cool. Please, everybody, welcome to the show, Cindy, maiden name Ottenreith, now Cindy Kelly. Yay! Longest intro.
Hi.
The intro is usually less than a minute, so.
Well, I'm honored to have a longer intro.
I went off the rails. I really did. But I just want to explain to people, I just want them to know, like, why is this? Because I think this is like a cool concept for this show. Because literally you're the first person I've had and only that doesn't have a mobility disability. But I just thought this would be fun,
Well, when you asked and then I saw, I know that you've done this and it just didn't really click. I'm like, oh my God, rolling with my homies. That's awesome. Cause that's like our thing. That's our time frame, right? And then, except then the realization came that, like, you know what? That wasn't our time. That was your time with Jen and Brittany and Melissa and not Cindy. So I kind of felt some type of way, like, I got to give, pay homage to those best friends too, because they were there for rolling with my homies. I came after, but here I am.
You came right around that time. And the reason I know is because I saw Clueless in the movie theater with John Namira, who was one of your first boyfriends.
Yeah.
I had a crush on him at the time. And we actually pretend held hands at the movie because we were like, we both wanted to hold each other's hands, but we were too embarrassed. So we were like telling the other people, they were like, it's so easy. Look, it's so stupid. Look, you just do it. And that's how we held hands. I'm so stupid.
So I'm going to go a little like, I'm scattered, right? That's, my thing. But you brought up something there that's a flash forward from that time frame in terms, you said holding hands in the theater. And I got to fast forward to, like, remember when I asked Colin to hold your hand when watching, what was it, like Crop Circles or something like that? Like there was a scary movie. What was it?
Signs. Joaquin.
That one. That one. Yeah. So I'm like, that was like, you have to hold her hand. You have to. I wasn't sitting close enough to you or something.
Colin, by the way, is her husband now. So I don't like mixing.
Time frames.
Yeah, I hate like any even mildly flirty behavior with a best friend's partner. It makes me feel so uncomfortable. So I'm surprised. Did I do it?
Yeah,
Well, maybe
you
it was,
needed it.
I was probably really scared.
It was important.
Okay, well, thank you. I would not have done that for you.
That's okay. I might not have needed it.
Well, you don't need it. That's right.
Yeah.
So I want to tell people like what do I mean by she like incorporated the disability into our friendship? Like, what does that mean? That's so weird. But you know, it's true. Like for an example, let's just talk about what happened because you're a year older than me, right? Or two, something like that.
One.
So, at least a grade older than me. So so you got your driver's license before I did, and you drove us all around. You were the driver, and when you got your first car, like what your requirement was that it was accessible.
Yep. That was it. You had to be able to, you know, get in and out easily. We needed to be able to go around the town and no stopping us, just kind of, you know, simplicity, access.
Cell phones when we were driving around, so we had to do drive-bys and get out of the car and knock on people's doors pioneers. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So you made sure to get a car that had a trunk that you could just put the wheelchair in and out without breaking it down.
Yep.
That's so, I mean, my boyfriend's since you haven't even done that.
So then we crashed that car though, right? You were there.
Well, you.
Well, I think it was like a mutual event, right? There was a third party in there, right? Because you, me, and Melissa, we all contributed to distracted driving. Well, we did not have PSAs.
No, she threw the lighter and you knocked over your Sprite. And then you looked down to get the Sprite and you crashed into a pole.
Ah, the innocent bystander. I get it.
I did nothing. How funny was when we pulled a wheelchair out of the trunk. People were like, well, they came prepared for an accident.
We got it. We're good.
Yes. So, then you got a second car. And again,
the second car was even more accessible, right? We got that through Tony's place. And it was an even longer station wagon that time. The first one was a hatchback. Second one, straight up hardcore station wagon.
Yeah. Tony, my brother's father, my stepdad. Yeah, that's right. That was, again, that was such a huge gesture because even though for you, it was like, I didn't ask you to do that. I mean, I wouldn't have, I didn't even, and it's like, I have to plan ahead so much as a person with a disability, and I know that when I'm with you, it just takes a huge load off and I don't even know how to explain. It's just like refreshing, because I feel like I'm constantly putting all this pressure on myself because I don't want to be a burden to other people. And that's the other thing. Even though you've gone above and beyond and done things that I would never even ask other people to do, I've never felt like I was burdening you because you didn't make me feel that way. Not even with your nonverbal cues about it. Like you didn't rub it in you weren't like, I got this car because you could, like, you never made me feel any certain type of way about it.
Sometimes though, I probably did with helping out with, scrubbing your hair. Every time I take a shower and I scrub my head, I think about you and I think about your uncle.
Did you wash my hair?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah. So we remember because we had some very inaccessible places in our trip to Italy, Israel. Yeah. And so it definitely required extra assistance there. And I remember, you schooling me on how to properly scrub your head. And I'm like, man, doesn't that like hurt or something? And you're like, no. This is what my uncle said. it has to lather perfectly. And I'm like,
my uncle's a hairdresser. Okay. Yeah. So, right. Because that's the thing. You helped when we would go, like, because not recently now, but a few years ago, we went to Italy and Israel, which my entire life, I've wanted to go to Italy. And I was always too afraid because everyone said it's not accessible. It's going to be hard, blah, 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 my whole life. And so finally I was like, well, if I'm going with Cindy because that's the only way I'm going to know. And we went and we did almost everything. And I guess, yeah, there were showers where I needed to, because sometimes they put a bench in there, it doesn't have a back to it. And it's hard for me to, I can wash my body, but hair, keeping my hands up, I lose balance. And so that's the times when you washed my hair. I don't remember that.
Yeah, no, actually, they didn't even have. It was like a teeny tiny little octagon thing. They didn't even have a bench, so we just used whatever chair they had there.
Yeah, that's another. I mean,
Rodent.
that's the thing about traveling. When you have a wheelchair, you have to improvise constantly, and sometimes you can manage it, but sometimes like and when you're wet and soapy, that's a dangerous time to just be figuring it out on the fly. So I yeah, that's so funny. I don't even remember you helping me with that. I still don't, even as we're talking about it.
Meanwhile, I'm sitting here harboring this like guilt feeling that like I made you feel some type of way because I was getting annoyed because I wasn't doing it right.
Well, okay, there we go. Solve that issue. I didn't even remember. I probably just was, yeah, because my and it's how it is when you just want to be clean, and if I couldn't do it, God, I literally don't remember that. Well, I do remember when we went to this mountain or something, because we met through a summer camp for people with different disabilities and different issues and different whatever, and you were a volunteer. And so we would go on excursions and things, different trips, right? And I do remember one time we went somewhere where it was a mountain climbing type of a thing. I forget which one. And there was an accessible path all the way up. And then it got to a point where it was no longer accessible. And all of the able-bodied campers and volunteers and stuff went ahead, and all of the ones in wheelchairs had to sit there and stay. And I was like, cool activity. Thanks for bringing us here. And you were like, what do you mean? This isn't where you have to stop. Come on. And I used to go piggyback on you all the time. I can't remember. I could count on one hand the amount of people I've gone piggyback on, and you all the time. We haven't done this in years. You would just crouch down in front of me, and I would grab onto your neck, and you would grab onto my legs, and you carried me up to the top of this mountain thing with everybody else.
Yep. That was, I think, Killington, Vermont. Okay.
So see. And then also to get up to your bedroom, you would carry me the same way.
Yeah. And that ended up being the easiest, simplest. Yeah. I mean, to this day, I mean, like you were able to help out even a lot more, right? Because you could use your hands to help carry bags of stuff. Like we had luggage, we had to get somewhere. Like it was like, this is great.
Yeah, so I would go piggyback on you. And then one time, remember we almost fell when you were going down?
Nope, but I bet you do.
Well, I love how we're each remembering different details. Working out. So yeah, you were like running down the stairs and you missed one and you almost fell, but you caught yourself. Unlike the time you didn't catch yourself when we were going down front ways. Remember that one? Okay, so you were bumping me down the stairs to a basement at somebody's house after like a day, and you had the chair pop back in a wheelie, and you were bumping me down the stairs by yourself, and you couldn't have been more than 14 years old at the time, by the way, and maybe 15 max, and you were bumping me down, but I had the anti-tippers, and the tippers caught on the wheels and like, right? And so I went bumped down, and then you fell on top of me, and I had like hit my head on the concrete slab of the stairs. I had to go home early that day.
Traumatic for both of us. More for you.
It happens. For the amount of times that you've helped me up and down stairs and the amount of times that we fell is like a really good ratio. I would say. Not that hard.
So, another one of those, unsuccessful carrying kind of. So I guess I always kind of felt this protective sense over you, right? So much so that I got kicked out of a program. That's cool.
I know. I have to tell them, we were at a summer program in Philadelphia for acting, and this guy said something about my wheelchair, and Cindy kicked him in the balls and got kicked out. but also I didn't do, again, innocent bystander, once again. I don't think they should have kicked you out. And of course, he had zero repercussions for hate speeching me. But anyway, continue.
So, in terms of safety wise, right? Santina safety was like always kind of, forefront, I guess, to a degree, because there were plenty of other unsafe things that weren't. But we were at the beach one time, and there was, totally a wave. I was too scattered. I wasn't used to doing this like mom thing, and Carrie Ann was little with us in Point Pleasant.
Yeah, so you weren't used to doing the mom thing. You mean when it was us, you were like giving me your undivided attention, and now you were also a mother to a 2-year-old.
Yeah, but not even really as much at that point. It was like just, my time with Carrie Ann was, relatively new. She was so young. I want to say like not like even before she was 2.
Because
we had her.
Yeah, we have to explain because there's people watching.
Sorry.
So Carrie Ann, her husband had a daughter when they met. And so Carrie Ann is Cindy's stepdaughter. So she was about 2 years old when she came into your life. And so you were not even married yet. So you were just the girl. This was your boyfriend's daughter.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And we took her to the beach. Mm-hmm. And you to the beach. And
well, that's the thing. It's like we took her to the beach. It's more like you took us to the beach because I can't go by myself. And I'm so used to you. Yeah, you're right. Just being like my legs and my arms and my, whatever. But yes.
So here we are, all 3 of us in the surf. And I'm, paying attention to her over there. And you're just getting like pummeled. And I'm like, oh my God, what do I do?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that definitely, made me look at what I'm going to do at a beach differently from that point on, because that was clearly two people that needed my undivided attention simultaneously. That couldn't happen again like that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I remember that day too, because we were so used to going, and who cares what would happen because you were there. But because you had to split your time, you were I think like we both sort of, I too, just like took it for granted, like how helpful, how much I was relying on you and how much you were actually physically doing, because there's not many people, even, again, just like the piggyback, that are capable of helping me in the ocean, especially my girlfriends. Because when I was little, they were little. You've always been a strong woman, though. You've always been a strong person.
Yeah, well, I mean, I could definitely throw my weight behind me, back in those days. Nowadays, I don't have that strength that I had then. I miss it.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I'm also not as tiny as I was either. So, like, that's what I say when people, why it sort of feels like the world is getting less accessible to me. It's because it's not that the world is getting less accessible. It's that the world is not getting any more accessible, and I'm not getting any younger, and I'm not 15 anymore. And my friends aren't, 15 anymore, 16. And people don't want to carry me, and I don't want to be carried.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember in hindsight, and I don't really have a good memory, period, but I do think about that often, the transition that you've made in your maturity, where like it was no longer cool. Like that was kind of like, I don't know that I've ever talked about this. That was a transition for me, like, oh, well, this isn't cool anymore. I get it. Like we're
cool anymore.
As far as like I want to say probably one of the times where it came up was one of your shows in New York. I'm like, yeah, I got it. Let's just do it. And you're like, no, I'm just going to ask one of these guys over here. I'm like, oh, okay.
Right, because it started to get to a point where it's like, well, this is ridiculous. What are we doing? I can't, because what happens when Cindy is not with me, which is all the time now, because I don't even live in New Jersey anymore. And you're in New Jersey. We grew up in New Jersey, for those who don't know. And Cindy's still there, and I'm on the other side of the country. So I can't. It's like now I feel almost like a social responsibility as well to be like, hey, you can't just rely on people showing up here with their best friends who's like strong as a friggin' ox. It's not fair to the people who show up without Cindy's. And it just, like I said, like even now, if I came to sleep at your house, I would sleep on your couch before I asked you to carry me up to some bedroom. I think you have a guest bedroom downstairs though, right?
It's completely accessible. And I kept a shower chair here just in case you might need it in the future. But you did need it, just not here.
Yes, that's right. I did need it at my cousin's. You brought it to my cousin's.
Very mindful though that it's not here.
Where is it?
It never came back here.
From my cousin's?
Yeah.
Oh, oops. Okay, we'll get it back to you.
So if ever you need to stay here, like I have to start brainstorming about another way.
But that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. How many of my friends have shower chairs at their, I don't even think my mother has a shower chair at her house for me if I visit. She might now, but I don't know if she does. Anyway, she might now. And if she's watching this, which she will, she'll be like, yes, I do. So I think she does now. But the point is to say, friends, I don't have to bring my mother into this. Friends wise, I don't have, people don't think about that as often as I would like. And I don't want to ever put that on people, And so it's like really nice to be able to, it's like I have friends who are vegetarians or vegans, where you have all these dietary restrictions too. And if you were coming to my house for dinner, I would think, okay, what is Cindy, what can I have in the house that she can eat? Like that, to me, it shouldn't feel like a huge burden, but for some reason, physical disability equals huge burden. And that's like the way our society makes it feel, I guess. I don't know why people don't think about it as often as I wish that they would. I have another friend who, when she was redoing her deck, my friend Barbara, she was like, let's do a ramp instead of stairs in case Santina comes. And also it was easier for her with the strollers and whatever. And I could cry when I go to her house. Could cry. It means a lot to me. And I don't think it's like, I'm not asking people to put elevators in their homes. I don't think I'm asking for, well, first of all, I'm not asking for anything, but I don't think I'm expecting like extra extraneous things. But when somebody does take that one little extra foresight, I'm like, oh, thank you. Because there's enough strangers out there who don't give a shit, And there's enough people in my life who care about me and love me who also don't seem to, and I think, to be fair, I think the people from my past especially are so used to me adapting to every situation, because that's what I did when I was younger, that they're like, we'll figure it out. But I'm too old now to be crawling around people's houses like I was,
One of those other random things that I think about is, and there were these metal items that I have around the house somewhere, and I thought forever that they were part of your little portable ramp that you had for the little one step in your house here. And I keep on looking all over as if it's that. And I'm like, yes, it's still here. We didn't lose it. Okay. Not that I have like one step, right? I have like a few, but I keep on looking for it and I keep on stumbling. It turns out it's something for, my husband's work, but I always think about that little foldable, portable one stepper.
So like what do you think makes you think about these things? Why do you think you're like this?
I don't know.
Because you don't have anybody else in your family that growing up that had a mobility disability in a wheelchair like that. I mean, besides maybe like an older aunts or something. Did you?
Yeah, no, I don't know. I think I enjoy challenge. And so in the beginning, it was like, we're going to figure out how to not be challenged. We're going to show everyone and everything that, because all of the looks that you would get, I would get, like, you're going to what? You can't do that. like all the time, everywhere. It was obnoxious. And during my more like violent days, I would have liked to punch people in the face, you too. And we didn't.
We're from New Jersey. I don't have to remind you. Yeah.
But those looks and those assumptions, and it was like, no, screw you. Watch this. You know, don't you wish you thought of that first?
Yeah, that is something that I have to say about. I've had some really nice, like, best friends who, especially growing up in Jersey, who are like fast to throw a look at, like very protective over people staring at me and saying things about me. And I always appreciate that too, because it is constant. You would think I was wearing like a hot dog suit or something. I mean, people are like, what? It's like, what? I'm in a wheelchair. Are we seriously still, what's going on?
How about like the, you know, countless strolls that, you know, were not like, I wasn't pushing you. I was walking with you one-handed so we could walk together. Like I hated being behind when I couldn't look at your expression, like, cause you're so expressive and we're both like, you know, we need to be side by side when we're having a conversation because it's just not as fun otherwise.
Mm-hmm. I call it the Cindy to this day. If anyone pushes me that way, I've taught all my boyfriends the Cindy. It's basically, yeah, instead of behind me pushing me, you put one hand on one handlebar and walk next to me, and I help steer. But you know, and this is not for always because I can push myself, but like, you know, down the long boardwalk where we would spend many nights, and things like that, where we had a ways to go. And yeah, it was because felt like we could have more of a conversation that way. And also, it didn't make me feel like you were my nurse, which no, that's fine if people need that. But I wanted to feel like we were friends. I didn't want to feel like you were helping me, you know, more than I was. I just didn't want to feel imbalanced in our relationship.
Yep. And in that regard, you definitely had, you know, had more responsibility as far as you had the logic, I had the impulsivity, you had the finances, I had the vehicle, you had the gas money or the cover charges, and I had, you know, the brute strength to get you up wherever we needed to go. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. It was always important to me to make it feel like we were both giving equally, maybe not the same things, but equally of, like, neither one of us, I think we both know that whatever, you know, I know if I need a ride from the airport, you are going to pick me up. You know, if you need a ride from the airport, I'm going to pay for a cab.
Yeah.
So we're both getting picked up from the airport. Yes, thank you. Right. I hate driving. And you love it. You've driven us everywhere. I mean, yeah. I mean, you know, we've stayed in hotels. We've stayed in like very many inaccessible places. I mean, it's like it didn't matter when I was with you if the place was accessible or not when we were younger. Remember when you booked Italy? Because I was like, Cindy, you just book it, please. I can't. And you were nervous, and I just like, I didn't even ask, and you were like, this is so weird that she hasn't even asked me about it. Remember?
I was terrified. Oh my God, terrified, because I knew like this was your dream. It had to be perfect. I don't know what, I'm really not a travel planner. Like anybody in my life wants to do anything. I am a last minute person. I don't know what's the best thing. I just can't, I can't even take the time off of work to even consider it. And that a 2-week trip to Europe, I can't, that was a lot of pressure.
Yeah, but I didn't complain about one thing.
And it was all perfect.
It was perfect. Well, listen, the food, I didn't care. As long as I could eat the food in Italy, I really didn't care. I just wanted to go to Italy finally and know if I could do it. And I knew that this was my test. So if I couldn't do it with you, forget it.
And as long as you could communicate my food needs while we were there, we were good.
Well, that was it. Cindy is she has like a very specific diet that she eats. And so I speak.
Not a diet.
Well, yes, it's a diet. It's what you eat. It's your diet. I ate a diet of blah blah blah. Not it's a specific diet. Not like a and so I speak Italian and she doesn't. So I was able to say, she wants salt, she doesn't want this, she does want that, because they were not understanding you as expressive as you are as well.
Yeah, well, I guess this is kind of off this kind of topic, but I was really kind of impressed that, mainly it's sugar, flour, wheat. And they're like, why would we put that in there? Because they're not here. That's other countries are so much fresher. I had no idea.
Yeah, not zucchero, right. That was so fun. So what did you ever feel like different? In what ways did you feel different about me than you felt about your friends who weren't in wheelchairs in general, not like specifically me versus Melissa or whatever?
I definitely felt like I had fast pass tickets everywhere. It was a bonus, no?
Yeah, of course. We cut every line always.
Always, I think, I definitely relied on your looks and personality to, I think that got us more of a fast pass than anything else. And, the wheels were just like, the sidekick deal. Oh yeah, this is why. But no, I think the looks and the personality was like, yeah, this girl's got to get up front row. Sorry. She just has to.
TV house when they were down the shore.
Oh yeah. I know. We went hours listening to that song. Hours. But look, you know what though? I tribute to that though. Once you learn what the song is about, I'm so much I can listen to it again. I know, it's weird. Closing time?
Yeah, what's it about?
Closing time? So like the I'm so bad with people and groups and stuff, but the writer of the song wanted to write about his, he was having a baby, but he didn't want to present that to his band members because that wasn't going to be cool and they weren't going to want to do it. So he kind of had to like hide it in the lyrics. And now it makes it so fun to listen to every time because
it's annoying to hear it 15 times in a row in the middle of August in the Jersey humid heat.
Try it again now though. It's a different experience.
Okay. We did that. We did what was the other one I was gonna say? Oh, we met Britney Spears backstage at Jingle Ball.
We did?
Yeah.
Where was I?
You took the picture. Because Aerosmith was there too, and I was on your piggyback on you during Aerosmith.
Huh. So interesting, right? Because like this is your life, right? These are the things that are your, this is what you love to do. You've always been so connected with, the lights and the stars. And, I couldn't even tell you like names of people. And so interesting. I'm like, yeah, let's go hiking again. You're like, remember that? You took the picture. I'm like,
yeah. that was in Vermont, and I'm like, oh, that was Britney Spears. Yeah, that's also that's fun. I think that we're not like exactly the same. We don't have all the same interests at all, but we just complement each other, I think, in ways. And we're both doing what we've wanted to be doing, when we were younger. So you said already that you were protective over me, which I love. Was there ever like any jealousy or anything like that? Did you ever have bad feelings?
Probably sometimes. I can't think of any specific time right now. But I'm sure, right? I mean, I certainly have spent years sitting in the low self-esteem pot. Countless, right? So I'm sure like, yeah, I went through some significant periods there, right? Where, you had to be on the flip side, right? I had my little stint in the hospital, right? And like, I don't ever, again, my experiences and your experiences, right? So it's not often that I see that from the view of a friend or family member. Right. So like that was very much wrapped into insecurity and jealousy, and and related to like friends and my thoughts of myself and what was self-worth at that time. Right. Yeah. You always had so many, like just every network of whatever, clique or friends, tons. That was not necessarily like I always kind of gravitated towards like getting in trouble or causing drama over here or over there, you know? So I think certainly it was like, man, I just don't know how to do this social thing. This is not my wheelhouse.
It was like not, it's funny how we see ourselves, because that is not how I saw you at all. I always saw you as very social, and we always were going to different friends' houses, and some were mine and some were yours.
Yeah. Yeah. But I always had that like people pleaser part of me, right?
Yeah.
Or the entertainer too.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess so. But you, when you said hospital before, it made me think of another thing that you would do for me, which was you always would stay at, when I had a hospital, to stay in the hospital, you would sleep on those stupid uncomfortable chairs. When I had an MRI, you would be outside the MRI, like doing sign language. Yeah, doing sign language, and I would get in trouble. When I was recently, about 4 years ago, I was in the hospital here in LA. You flew out for a weekend. This is Cindy. She went to work on a Friday, drove to the airport, parked her car at the airport, flew to LA, stayed in my apartment, and drove, back and forth, came back and forth to my hospital, stayed with me on Sunday, took a red eye home, and landed at the airport, and then drove her car to work on Monday. Who does that? And while she was here, she waxed my legs for me, because I hadn't shaved my legs in like months, because I was in the hospital for 3 months. And another thing she'd always do is paint my nails and paint my toenails, because she's very good at manicures and pedicures. But tell them what you would do at sleepovers.
Well, I would just, Santina always had complete structure in her life, right? She always had to go to sleep with, at this time with the timer set on the TV, everything was just so, and the comforters, and then Nana would come in and just fix everything. Cause I would clearly be like a hot mess all over, right? Like I'm just a teenage kid, right? But everything had to be just so for Santina to sleep.
Really? Yeah. Your best friends tell you things about yourself that you don't even know. But also, when you're saying it, I still do some of these things. Yeah.
I know. Yeah. You've got some very, very,
But don't make it sound like I am extreme, because you are also at the complete other extreme of that, where you could sleep like hanging upside down off of a picnic table with one shoe on, and like a bird squawking overhead. I mean, you could just do, so you are completely at the other end of that spectrum. I just like need a bed, a pillow, a blanket. I mean, like kind of normal things. So yeah, it's okay.
So
before you usually.
Yeah. So while Santina would go through her, ritual to, her bedtime ritual, and she would fall asleep, I was not interested at all in sleeping. I just have always had weird sleep where like either I'm not sleeping at all or I'm just sleeping on a rock. Right. And so what does one do?
It's a clinical issue for you.
It is. It's got diagnosed narcolepsy.
Yeah.
It's cool. Misdiagnosed often. So, so I couldn't do anything because we weren't allowed to have the TV on, because that would disrupt Santina's sleep. I couldn't make any noise.
Oh, I didn't know this. I'm sorry.
So what is left to do but paint nails? And I ran out of nails to paint, but Santina had 10 toes.
So I'd wake up with my nails painted, and they were really be great too. I know she knows my favorite one was the time she went from day to night, like almost like an ombre across my feet. So it started as like a light blue with skies. With clouds, and ended with a dark blue with stars and moon. And I would wake up and be like, "Whoa, thank you." But that's funny. I didn't realize that it was because I was like, "Don't turn on the TV after I fall asleep."
Yeah, well, I never really.
Well, people are probably like, "Why didn't you just play on her phone?" We didn't have cell phones. We had beepers, but
Look, I would have been so happy to play Sonic the Hedgehog, because like I definitely did not have Sega in my life.
why
And
play it on mute?
because the light would have, I mean, I tried. I know. I tried. It didn't work.
But now you could if you wanted to. That's very bratty of me. I can sleep now not with the sound on though.
So, but you gotta figure. I think that a lot was to the way that the house was set up. I think Anthony was an infant. Nana, was impacted by the light under the door. I think just the house setup too played into it. Plus, your family wasn't used to somebody who never slept, right?
And I also feel like because of my time in the hospital, there are certain noises and like when I was in college, I had to ask my roommate to set her alarm to music instead of the meh, 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 because to get woken up by beeps like that made me feel like it was some sort of a machine on my body. So there's like a little bit of PTSD involved. I'm not saying I wasn't also a little bit of a brat, but mixed with PTSD and mixed with the rest of my house being sort of way more of a structured house than yours. I mean, your household, which I loved going to, but it was like, my mom is the type of mom where it's like every piece of mail you cannot see it when you come to our house. Everything is like, my nonna, my mom were constantly cleaning, constantly. And I used to be like, why don't you relax? At Cindy's house, you can just do this and just do that. That's just how it was. It's different.
Yeah.
Not that your house was a wreck, because if it was, I wouldn't have been even allowed over. But it was not as, type A house.
How about let's talk about what mom gives, some young kid the keys to the Mercedes?
Well, my mom had a Mercedes, but it was like a Mercedes station wagon. Everybody relax. It wasn't like and she really trusted you more, and it's so funny because she'd be like, I trust when you're with Cindy. And I'm like, great, because that's the friend I do the most drugs with, because we would drive around and buy weed. We were teenagers. We would buy pot from, at that point, strangers. It wasn't like how it is today, kids, where you go, where it's legal in some states and you go into a store and it's like a Tivana in there and you pick it was like, do you have weed? It wasn't like, do you have a sativa hybrid? No, it was just whatever. And we would do that here, now and then as we experimented as teen. Also, you always looked older than you were. So you could buy alcohol. You didn't like drinking though, but you would buy it for me. But like, I never even actually really liked it either, but I would try it to be cool. And you would always buy liquor for me because you looked always older. You could at 15 years old, you could walk into a liquor store and buy liquor.
Did I do that?
Yes.
I mean, I'm not surprised. I just don't remember.
You could.
I believe you.
You always looked older.
Well, I knew that part.
Now, basically.
It's true.
Yeah, it's true. Cindy doesn't age, or she doesn't change. Her face hasn't changed. You can look at her pictures if you don't believe me. But I did most of my crazy stories from my teenage years. Many of them involve you. And my mom was like, oh, I trust that, Cindy. And I'm like, great for us.
Meanwhile, you had a talking to from my mom.
She tricked me.
Yeah.
Because Cindy going overboard with, well, you tell it.
Well, no, I mean, like, so I don't know. I wasn't there. I was in rehab.
Well, that's what I mean about the overboard. Cindy took the drug use further than I did. I was just
innocent bystander again.
No, well, I was like a midnight toker, okay? You know what I mean? That type of a thing. And Cindy started dabbling in other things, and I was like, no, I don't want to do that, because I don't adhere to peer pressure. And so she did. So she went away to rehab in friggin' Utah, and I'm like, well, this sucks. Now my best friend and my basically chauffeur, because you drove us everywhere, was gone, and then you told your mom that I was one of your accomplices in drug use. And so her mom comes over. Oh, Cindy sent you a letter from Utah. Why don't I give it to you? Let's go get ice cream, and I'll fill you in on what's been going on over there in Utah, and I'll take you out for ice cream. And I'm like, okay, great, free ice cream, cool. And we sit down, and now my mom's not there. No other parents or adults around, and she's like, listen, when Cindy comes back, you better not be smoking these drugs with her. And I was like, ah! How does she? I didn't want the adults to know, because my mom was like, no, nobody's doing anything wrong. She was like, don't ask, don't tell. So she didn't. I never got in trouble really from my mother about it. Only yours.
Yeah. Thanks for taking that.
Mm-hmm. I got ice cream, so I guess, I mean, but your mom is also like not conventional in many ways.
Yes.
She's always like a fun mom, but also every once in a while she would get annoyed or something. And I remember she loved that song. I put my hand up on your hip. When I dip, you dip, we dip. And then one time she loved it. She would turn it up in the car. And then one time the lyrics clicked about what the song was really about. And she was like, I don't want you to listen to that. And we were both like, what? We were shocked because she loved that song. Remember?
Yeah, I clearly remember that. And I can definitely say I'm guilty of that too. As the mom, like, oh yeah, wait.
That's the songs that we sang in front of them. It's truly mortifying for me to think about now.
Yes.
I'm so embarrassed. I would never sing some of those songs in front of my mother now, and I'm an adult.
Yeah, I think in that regard, also you were not treated any, differently or special, I think, by my family.
Your parents and your sister. No, exactly. Right. That's very true. And it's a great point. They never treated me any differently. I didn't feel like with any kid gloves or whatever.
So much so that you really wanted to go back to Italy. And you took my sister.
And I went, the second time I went to Italy, I went with her sister Petra. My friend Dana came with us. But I was like, I need an aunt wreath if I'm going to go to Europe. Yeah, that's the other thing. Cindy has an older sister, and I've also, the first time I went to Hawaii, I went with Petra. When I've gone to Atlantic City with Petra. I mean, it's like a family affair over there.
Yeah, so we can't say it's necessarily just me, right? It's the Autenreys.
No, it is the Autenreys, because Petra truly is just like you in that way, where I know that if I need something, she's gonna be like, okay, and not be like, all right, but I'm not sure. She just doesn't. You guys just don't have that. But your mom is also the type of friend to go pick up her friend in DC or something like that. That's just how your family always has been.
That's it. So there's the answer to your question a while ago.
About why are you like this? And and I love all of my friends and their families, and they've all been great and done things for me in so many different ways. So, I hope anyone watching this doesn't feel like I didn't appreciate their friendship, because I did. I just think that in terms of my disability, you were uniquely tuned in a way that made me feel like we could do anything. We could go anywhere. It was not even a second thought for me. If there was a flight of stairs and I was with you, it's not even like, oh, how are we going to do this? Or it just wasn't even a second thought. I felt able-bodied when I was with you because you were my legs,
So sometimes I think that in my brain, it got even convoluted too, because there was this time you were already at Jenks at the aquarium.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, no, this is just where it gets weird. And you were there first, and I was meeting you there. I don't know if I had a kid or two with me or not. I'm not sure, or if it was just me. But I remember stressing out, like, how am I going to get up to where you were? You were on the second floor, and I didn't know where the elevator was, or how, or what kind of, did it have a ramp? How does someone get to the second floor? I really,
You had
I
what happened was you had the stroller with you, I think, and you were like, I don't know how I'm gonna be able to help you down with this because I have to carry the stroller.
no, no, no,
Was it?
no, no, Sam, that would have been a normal thought process. Mine was convoluted. How am I get? How do my thought process was as if I was you.
Yeah, you were like, how can I get upstairs when Santina's in a wheelchair? And it's like, yeah,
Yeah, you were already there, and I had legs. I'm
yeah,
not sure, like, why that was really. And I remember going, that was weird.
yeah, because right, you're right, because you were so invested in my, in what I could do and what I couldn't do. You were so invested, and right, like the lines got blurred. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Was there ever a time where you were like, shh, I can't do this? Besides that time at the beach?
I think that those kind of times only came more recently, where I'm not as strong, I'm not as big, I can't put the weight behind me, right? And so maybe a couple times in Israel, or like, I do remember going down to the Dead Sea.
Oh
That
yeah.
was that was a long road. I really was like traumatized from dropping you. Didn't want to ever drop you again. Had flip flops, and I remember feeling like, this is scaring me a little bit here.
But so you
Eh,
see what I mean? Like, and that's what I mean about our friendship. Like, you, you see what I mean about we can't keep doing this like how we did when we were young. Because if we went to the Dead Sea when we were 16, who cares? You would have been just dragging me all over the place. We wouldn't have even thought about it. But even you're like, okay, aren't we getting? Isn't this supposed to be fixed, right? I mean, granted, the Dead Sea is very old. I don't think that they're worrying about accessibility. But even you're like, all right, we're not spring chickens anymore.
yeah.
And it's
Or
hard.
even
Okay.
trying to find a bathroom in the market.
Mm-hmm.
It was like some tight spaces that, again, we're creative. We come up with some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but they, I think we were definitely thrown with challenges that, even the amount of toilets that didn't have seats. That's not ever something we expected.
Yes, Italy has this weird thing where their seats get taken off, like the porcelain top, the top of it, and nobody replaces it. So we tried everything until we finally figured it out. I have to sit sideways. So this is a tip for anybody in a wheelchair who goes to Italy. Try sitting sideways on those toilets because to sit regular, you're gonna fall in. So and we tried everything where you were like holding me up under my arms. We were putting like bags. We tried everything, and then we finally figured it out. Sit sideways. But I had the same thing with your sister when we went to Italy. It was like, hey, can you help me? This bathroom doesn't have a seat, and she just be there in case I fall, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
I'm getting older,
Yeah.
right? And I I it was fun when we were younger, but you would just think that the world would have caught up, and I don't think it has. I mean, do you think about accessibility when you're not with me? How often do you? I know you do in your house.
Oh, I would say often. Uh, probably too much, actually. I think realistically, I'm kind of annoyed at my job because there's no elevator to get downstairs if I wanted to hire somebody, and like there's no, how would they get down to the office? That's annoying. Um, I think about the Shady Rest in Bayville, the bathroom in there. How do they get away with, like, I could barely fit in there myself, like I all the time, actually.
I think
Yeah.
that's good. I think if everybody had a best friend in their life or a person in their life with a disability and thought that way and didn't just think it, but verbalized it, then we would maybe start seeing more progress about the at least physically accessible wise. The social barriers, that's a whole other thing that I'm dealing with. And that's what you were talking about earlier with people staring at us and whatever. And we bucked all of that too. And then now there's the physical barriers that I'm always dealing with. It's freaking non-stop. It's non-stop. And it's, I mean, I'm in my 30s now.
Yeah.
Please. When does it doesn't, and I'm like, it's not going to end. So not in my lifetime.
Yeah, I've definitely watched your struggles. I don't want to say, I don't know if they've increased. I feel like they're just less tolerated. And I've watched that process for you, and you have enlightened me to like so many others, because like we're not together every day. So we're not really evolving together in that way. So, when you told me about all the times that like you would just get ditched by Uber or Lyft or something like that, it's like, that was like heartbreaking.
Yeah. Because
I had no idea.
Yeah. Because you would think that by now we've been best friends for however old my brother is exactly. What is he, 23 years old or something like that? That we would be, remember when things weren't accessible back in the 90s? You would think that would be the conversation we're having. And we're not. It's not the conversation we're having. It's unfortunate. But we're at the end now, so I have to wrap it up. I hate this part because I feel like, well, especially with you, I could talk to you for days, but, I think just thank you for being like that. And I hope that everybody has friends in their life that are willing to sort of take some of that pressure off of them, because it is exhausting mentally for me to have to think ahead constantly for everything. And it is very just, what a relief when somebody's like, oh, I planned my bachelorette party and it's at an accessible hotel, whatever the thing is. It's like nice to know that the other person is thinking about your needs. Just like I said, just like how I would think about if you were coming, to eat over, what would you eat? Or just like if somebody has, whatever they have in their life, thinking about the other person and taking some of the weight off of them, because that's what friends are supposed to do for each other anyway. Right?
Yeah. And look, I think that, day in and day out, you continue to teach me to be more open, to see more things like that. I use a lot of your experiences, recent experiences, even, with, in a work setting, and like, just observing how others, the consumers that I work with, are just treated differently. And how, I watch how the staff or employee of whatever doctor's office or store or whatever could just address them differently, to normalize it, to, not be afraid, or not change their behavior because they don't know what to do with this person, this thing, whatever.
Right.
And I listen to you when you talk about your frustrations, and it kind of helps me to kind of be mindful of myself, and then kind of see in others. And, I look for kind of the opportunities to gently educate when possible, or, it's not always possible, and it's not always my job either. So
Well,
when I can,
in our lives, I think we've talked about this recently, but I've talked more about being in a wheelchair, or been more cognizant of it in the past 5-10 years than I was when we first met. When we first met, what did we talk about? Boys, crushes, the mall, boys again, whatever, our parents. Like, we talked about very normal teenage girl things. We never really ever were like, so how does it feel to be, even when I got my first period, I was like, Cindy, what do I do? You were like, okay, you were on the other side of the door telling me what to do. And it wasn't like specialized to me. It was just my older friend, who was a year older than me, who had her period before I did, telling me what to do. Just like any other friendship, it wasn't like, okay, sorry, but do you feel like it wasn't weird? It was just like, it wasn't weird. And I think that I really needed that. I really needed that friendship to help normalize for me something that I felt should be normal, but it felt like the rest of the world was like, but it's not. And I'm like, okay, fine, it's not. And now I'm kind of like, okay, it's not. Because how many years can I just be like, no, it is. It's like, fine, it's not, but it is. Anyway, we'll get there. I have to end this. I don't want to. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. I think this was really fun. Comment below, talk about your best friends. I want to hear about like some of your tricks and things that you did with your best friends, whether you're the person with the disability or the best friend without, or if you're two friends with disabilities, how did that work? Who did what, who helped too? That's interesting to me too. And just thank you everybody for joining me and Cindy tonight for our very special episode. I thought this was so cool. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok at Santina Muha. You could also follow Outside in Theater on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Outside in Theater, at Outside in Theater, THTR, to keep track of everything going on at Outside in Theater. You could follow Cindy, but she's not like a real social media person, right? You don't want them to.
Don't bother following me. I don't even know what that means. I have Facebook. That's it.
Yeah, she doesn't care about that. But thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Be good. Be good to your friends. Stay safe. And we'll see you next time on Rollin' With My Homies. See ya.